Hello, this is Brenda Wheeler from the International Institute of Genealogical Studies. Welcome to the English session. Today we're going to be talking about parish registers and the best ways to find them and see what is available, whether it's available online or whether you have to go and actually find them somewhere in an archives or the family search history rooms. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. Excuse me a minute, I've just gone into the wrong one. That's a good start. Right. Can everyone see that okay? Let me just bring it bigger.
Yes, it's there.
Okay, so this is the best map I could find showing England, so just so you know where you are today. What we're going to look at is how to find the records that you may be wanting. And one of the first places to try is Genuki, Genuki, and the website is up there, www.genuki.org, and put in the name of the place that you're interested in. Now, for my talk today, I've looked at Dewsbury, which is in Yorkshire. That itself is a problem because there's three different areas named Yorkshire. You've got the west, you've got the north, and you've got the East Riding. Ridings are one of the old-fashioned land divisions that they used to have. You have shires, you have soaks, you have wapentakes, and you have ridings. So Yorkshire has been divided up into the ridings, and we're looking at the West Riding and the area named Dewsbury. And right in the middle there is, with a little pink mark, is Dewsbury. And what it does, having a map like this, you see the other areas around Dewsbury as well. And the ones that I'm going to be seeing today are Earl's Heaton, Ossett, Hanging Heaton, and Soot Hill, as well as Dewsbury and Dewsbury Moor. Those are the places that would make up the parish for the Church of Dewsbury, the parish of Dewsbury. Now, with Genuki, you can find there's lots of different things there. There's cemeteries, church history, etc., down the one side, and history maps, etc., down the other side. From what we see here, we see it's the ancient parish of Dewsbury, and it gives you a little description of Dewsbury itself. And this one's actually quite a big one. And some of them come from the old directories at the time. Samuel Lewis directory is a good one. And they give you what it was like in the old days. And this description gives us the church is a vicarage dedicated to All Saints, so it's the Church of All Saints. The deanery is Pontefract, and it gives you the value of it, which is £22. That's quite a high value on this parish, this parish church. There's a lot more underneath this particular description. Let me see if I can get to it. Right. If I carry on underneath, what I've got is the parish is so big that what Januki has done is to then break it down into the different areas. So you can see some of the areas that I was talking about there: Dewsbury Moor, Earl's Heaton, Hanging Heaton, they're all there. You've got photographs of the churches. You know where the cemetery is. You've got the church history. Now, this is where it becomes very interesting because look at all of the different churches there are. It is the Church of England, parish of Dewsbury, but there are Baptist, there's congregational churches, and so you've got to remember that sometimes, especially if your ancestors migrated because of religious differences, it could be that some of these other churches that are in the area will have records about your ancestors. The other thing you have to think of, though, is also the law of the land, which for most of the time periods that you're interested in say that a couple has to get married in the Church of England, in the parish church. So even if you cannot find baptisms, you may well find the marriage in the parish church, and you may find the burial in the parish church because that would be the only cemetery. A lot of these smaller chapels, congregational and Baptists, probably would not have their own cemetery. So we can see from that there is a lot more on this Januki page than just the map that I was looking for. So our normal port of call to start with is family search as well, with the catalogue search of Dewsbury. And well, look at what all of those different churches. What I've done with the catalogue search is I put the name Dewsbury in and all of the different areas of interest to come up, and you can see some at them at the top there. And the church records, I've clicked the little arrow, and boy, look at all of that lot that's come up. You've got the Wesleyan Methodist, which wasn't even mentioned in that list on Januki. You've got the Ebenezer Chapel, the Methodist Church, as distinct from the Wesleyan Methodist Church. You've got High Chapel. You've got the parish church. You've got the chapelry. Chapelries are small churches with very small numbers of congregation, and they are attached to a parish church or a parish. In this case, if you look at that list, we've got the chapelry of Hanging Heaton, the chapelry of Hartshead. All of these will be responsible back to the same bishop as is managing the parish of Dewsbury. So there's a lot of different records there. And as you work through them, you see that some of them, you'll see there's a highlighted one there in red. That's bishop's transcripts, as opposed to further down the list, I have, if I get my marker out the way, right down the bottom, you get Dewsbury Parish Registers. And the author there is the Church of England, Parish Church of Dewsbury. That's the one that you need to look at if you're looking for the parish church records. Bishop's transcripts are the vicar's take on what has been happening during the year. Once a year, usually around Easter time, which in olden days was pretty much the end of the year or the start of a new year. Before 1752, the year started, the last date of the year was the 24th of March, and the new year started on the 25th of March. So around that Easter time. And so the vicar had to send in a report of everything he had done during the year. He had to send in his work to the bishop. And so bishop's transcripts, if you can't find parish registers, your next stop then is bishop's transcripts to see if they are available. And some of those can be quite difficult to read. Others very neat and tidy, but I have seen tiny scraps of paper with a whole year's work on it, where it's been written across the line and then they've cross-hatched it with the rest of the work when they've turned the paper around sideways. So you can imagine that is a challenge to look at. So you've got the two choices there. Obviously, the first choice is the parish register because that is the original register filled in at the time of the event. Bishop's transcripts would be exactly what it says, a transcription, a transcript. So let me find my arrow where it's gone and go to the arrow's disappeared. That's it. There we are. Okay. So in this case, I've selected the the parish registers, and in one case, it says that there is a film available to look at, but it's not actually a film of the parish register itself. When I look at the top there, it says Yorkshire main author. It's actually a transcription of the very, very early parish registers. Very handy if you want to see back in the 1500s with this particular church. The records started in 1536, one of the earliest churches to have records available. But I wanted film, so when I look at the films themselves, I have to go down to the Family History Centre. They've got that little key above the camera. I have to go to the Family History Centre to look at the actual films. In other words, copyright isn't readily available to go worldwide on the internet. However, they've got a little magnifying glass beside them, which is a sign that they've got an online index. So what have we got covered in those online indexes? We've got christenings from 1600, and they gradually work through right through to 1853. They've got marriages from 1600, again through to 1837. 1837, the start of civil registration, any rate. Burials, again from 1600. So there is quite a range of material available on those films, and they are films of the actual parish registers. Online indexes, though, they are handy to try and find who you're looking for, but they do not replace the originals. Now, I'm looking here for the surname Breary, and I've got a list of the breweries that are available, in this case, in the 1700s. It's not telling me a lot from that, but if I go to the actual parish registers, and you can tell how old these are because these are ones that are photographed from the old microfilms. When I was first looking for this family, I was actually looking at the old films where you wound the handle around in the Family History Centre. So what have we got on the films that possibly is not on the indexes? And the third one down, Elizabeth Widow, she's buried. This is a burial list on the one to the side. Elizabeth comes from her abode or where she lives, in other words, is Ossett. Note the double S there, the long S for the first S, and the second S is what we would class as a normal S. So that is Ossett, O-S-S-E-T. SSETT. Now, if I looked at that on the online indexes, it would just say it was from the parish of Dewsbury. It does not give me that that person actually lived in Ossett. So there is a difference when we look on the left-hand side here. Here's some breweries, and the one I was interested in is virtually straight in the middle there. James, son of Jonathan Brewery. And yes, it's the parish of Dewsbury, but where does Jonathan live? In Soothill. And the 18 there is the date, the 18th. Dewsbury, the parish itself, was a mining area. And with some of the parish registers there, you see baptism after baptism after baptism taking place all on the same day. 12, 20 baptisms on one day. So it is a very heavily populated area. And to be able to have these parish registers available is fantastic. The online index, when I click on the result, this is what comes up. Here we have Sarah and George, and the mother's name, Mary. So Sarah is the baptized child, George and Mary are the parents. The christening took place in 1843, and the event place is what's given, not where they live. So be very wary of that. You could go madly looking in a lot of Dewsbury records to find they lived in Soothill. And it could be a totally different local history area, and you may not find them. So remember that these parishes do cover these outlying districts, such as Soothill, Dewsbury Moor, Hanging Heaton, some of those places, and there may be other records available for the areas that your ancestors lived in, which is within the parish, in this case with the parish of Dewsbury. I swapped out for a moment to Leatherley, which is another parish in the Yorkshire area. I just could not go past this beautiful parish register page in 1700. Just look how neat and tidy the writing is. Absolutely beautiful. Here I've got a brewery right up at the top. Katharina. Now you've got to work out, because 1700, they only kept one book for every event. So you will have marriages, baptisms, and burials all on the same page. And in this case, we can look across at this top one, Katharina, in other words, Catherine, because this is written in Latin. Uxor, wife. So Catherine, wife of John Breary. Indumento sepulto lanato. Buried in Woolen. DA, the day, the 7th day of July 1700. Absolutely beautiful writing. And if we go further down the page here, we've got Anna, Philia, daughter of John Collier, baptized September the 19, the 19th of September 1700. So beautiful writing, very easy to read. I just wish there were more parish registers like this one. So easy to read. So you look through the whole of the parish register of your interest, and how do you deal with all of the results you're getting? Start a spreadsheet or a table, whichever you find easier. And here I've got one for baptisms for Dewsbury. This is just some of the dates in the 1800s. And remember, this parish register goes back to 1536. So I have got an enormous database because I've looked at the names of interest in Dewsbury. And you can see I've got various names there. I've got the surnames Oates, Firth, Sykes, and Breary. And look at the different spellings that you can get. There's Breera. There's Breary with EY. There's Breary with Y. And there's just Breer. And so you will get these differences in surnames, but they could all be related. So you put them down. And you can see the different areas that these ancestors came from. Soothill, Dewsbury, Ossett, all of these big mining areas, lots of people there. So weeding out the areas of the names of interest can be quite difficult. So putting them on a database like this, I've then got I've built my own index of the names of interest. And if anyone is looking for these names in this area, you'd better contact me. So how do I then go about separating which John Breary or which James Breary am I interested in? I draw myself a little chart and I go through the list and I've put, in this case, I've put right at the top, what was right at the top when I started, Breary. And then I've put where I've had different spellings, I've put it beside the name of the child. And this is a chart of christenings. There's a Breary there without the E in the Breary EY. I've got Breary with an E, with an A. So there's lots of different ones. You can see with one family how it's changed. Breera, Breary. So you get these changes within the family, which can tell you exactly which part of the families they come from. And I start building up who's having the children. With my early work in the early 1700 in 1700 1781, actually it's still quite late on, they only named the father. The parish was only interested in the father, because if the mother died, who was going to pay for the upkeep of that child? The father. So they only needed the father's name. These villages, they know, everybody knows everyone else. They've seen mum walking around with her lump, her bump, for the last 9 months, so they know who the mother is any rate. They don't need to know that. All they need is the father's name in case mum dies. So you can build up a little chart and see who is married to who and how many children they had. You can see I made a mistake down here. I started a different family for James and Nancy and then realised I'd already got a family over here. So I added that one in. Sally got added in there. Now, actually, this was my family that I was looking for, James and Nancy. And you can see how I've built it up looking for the family names. But have I done enough? No. The other thing you must do when you are looking at these indexes of baptisms is also look at the burials, because how many of those children actually survived to become adults? Without going through the burials as well as the baptisms, You may well pick a child who died at 2 and you've got him down as your grandfather. So be very wary when you're doing your research of the parish registers that you look at both the baptisms of the children, but you also look at the burials right the way through. And yes, I do have a similar database of burials as well, just the same as with all the others. So you look at every aspect of a parish register. You fill in your databases at the time that you're looking at that information. Then when you get home, you can start charting them into the different families so that if you're looking, say, for, now where's the good one? Yes, if you're looking for a Joseph Breary, born in 1807, you've got problems because yes, I've got several Josephs. I've got a Joseph 1802. He's too young. I've got a Joseph. Oh, there's Joseph 1807. There he is, down the bottom lines. Ah, but there's a Joseph right next door, an illegitimate Joseph. Which one's mine? That's when you can see, because you've got it in front of you, you can see and you can start then researching both of the Joseph down here, the son of Joseph and Sarah, as well as Joseph here, the son of Martha. So can you see how charting it out like this, you put in the different families, you put in the burials, and you can see here that I've got Dorothy, the wife, died in 1804. Margaret, the wife, also here died in 1804. So it's not only the children I'm looking for the burials of, I'm looking for any part of the family. Because for as far as I know, I'm going to have to be very careful that Joseph and Margaret died in 1804, but I've got here a Joseph and Margaret born 1805. So that's going to be a different Joseph and Margaret. Here I've got Joseph and Sarah starting up in 1807. Was that the same Joseph remarrying after Margaret's death? So you really have to then study these charts to make sure that you haven't assigned a child to the wrong family. And I purposely left poor Isabella there as belonging to that family, because after I'd done the charting and I looked at the burials, I realised what I'd done. So you really have to study these charts all the way through. Okay, I'll stop sharing that one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just quickly going to share as well some of the websites that I used. This one, this is Leithley, that had that beautiful writing in that church parish, or that parish register. There's the ancient parish of Leithley. There it is there. And it is reasonably close. It's just the other side of the of the there's a big town in the middle there, and it's equidistant from that town to Dewsbury, the other side of the town. So Leithley was one that I was interested in, and that is on the Januki website. Another one to find if the parish registers exist is dustydocs.com. If you haven't heard of that one, dustydocs.com is another one to look at, and put in your parish name, excuse me, or the area that your ancestors came from, and it will tell you where you can find. Here I've gone back to Dewsbury, and it tells me where I can find possible access to records. And that top one should be quite interesting because that says free reg. Who's heard of free reg? You've heard of free BMD. Did you realise that there was a free reg as well, which covers parish registers? So it's an offshoot of the free BMD website, and you can look there. The example shows how I said there were 3 ridings in Yorkshire. There is also Yorkshire itself to look at. But there we have the example of the 3 ridings of Yorkshire. And here, Dewsbury, I've looked up again. And this is going to be telling me what I can find in the way of records. I can start the search right from there with the search options and the surname and everything. Okay, right. Well, that's just a few of the ones that you might not know. I'll put the last 2 just down into the chat area. Dusty Docs and Free Reg, I've put down there. So if you Google that, they will come up. And the other one I spoke about was Januki, which most of you, if you are avid English researchers, you should know Januki very well because it should be one that you are following a lot of the time. All your descriptions, not only of places, where the churches are, the history of the area, and also occupations. They've got quite a nice area of different occupations and where you can find information about the different occupations. Thank you for coming today. Hopefully you've got some information now about church registers within English records, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye from Brenda from the International Institute of Genealogical Studies, and thank you.